I stood at the entrance of the country club, holding the gift bag so tight my knuckles turned white. The security guard looked at his clipboard, then back at me, then at the clipboard again. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Your name isn't on the guest list." Before I could respond, I heard her voice. My daughter-in-law, Rachel, appeared in a pale pink dress, champagne glass in hand, smile frozen on her face like a mask. "Oh, there's been a misunderstanding," she said sweetly, stepping closer to the guard. "This woman isn't family. She's confused." I didn't move. I just stared at her. "I'm the grandmother," I said quietly. "I'm here for Emma's graduation party." Rachel tilted her head, that same pitying smile still plastered on. "I think you have the wrong venue, sweetheart. This is a private event." She turned to the guard and lowered her voice, but not enough. "Early signs of dementia. Her son asked us to handle it delicately if she showed up." The guard's face changed from confusion to sympathy. The wrong kind of sympathy. The kind reserved for people who've lost their minds. I looked past Rachel into the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a banner that read, "Congratulations, Emma," in gold letters. And somewhere in there, my granddaughter, the girl I'd held the day she was born, the girl whose college fund I'd been filling for 18 years. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I simply nodded, turned around, and walked back to my car. My old Buick sat between a Mercedes and a BMW, looking as out of place as I apparently was. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching the sun sink behind the oak trees that lined the parking lot. Dementia. She'd told them I had dementia. That's when something shifted inside me. Not anger exactly. Something colder. Something clearer. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The numbers glowed back at me. 18 years of deposits into that college fund. Monthly payments for their mortgage when my son lost his job 3 years ago. The down payment for their house. The loan for Rachel's boutique that she never paid back. And now, sitting in my car like a stranger, I finally understood something I should have seen years ago. They didn't want me. They wanted what I gave. My name is Dorothy. Dorothy Mitchell. I'm 67 years old, retired schoolteacher, widow for 9 years. I live in a small house in Savannah, Georgia. The same house where I raised my son, the same house where my husband took his last breath holding my hand. I always thought I did everything right. I worked 2 jobs when my son was young so he could have piano lessons and summer camp. I stayed up late helping with homework. I drove him to every practice, every game, every event. When he married Rachel 12 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. When they had Emma, I was there in the delivery room, crying happy tears. But somewhere along the way, I became invisible. It started small. Holidays where I sat at the far end of the table, family photos I wasn't included in, phone calls that went unanswered for weeks. Rachel always had an excuse. "We've been so busy. The kids had activities. We'll visit soon." They never visited. But whenever there was a bill they couldn't pay, whenever there was an emergency, whenever Rachel's boutique needed another cash injection, my phone rang immediately. And I always said yes, because that's what mothers do. That's what I believed. I drove home that night in silence. No radio, no podcast, just the sound of my own breathing and the hum of the engine. My neighborhood looked different somehow. Quieter, the streetlights cast long shadows across the empty sidewalks. Inside, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat at my kitchen table in the dark, looking at the graduation card I'd written that morning. "To my beautiful Emma, I'm so proud of the woman you've become. Love always, Grandma." I tore it up slowly, piece by piece, and let the fragments fall like snow onto the linoleum floor. Then I picked up my phone and called my bank. "Good evening. This is Margaret at Savannah First National. How can I help you?" "Hello, Margaret. This is Dorothy Mitchell. I need to make some changes to my accounts." "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. What would you like to do?" I took a breath. "I want to close the education trust fund I set up for my granddaughter." Silence on the other end. "Ma'am, That account has over $90,000 in it. I'm aware. And you want to close it? Yes. Transfer everything to my personal savings. And while you're at it, I need to cancel the automatic monthly transfer to the account ending in 4,472. More typing. That would be the payment going to a Rachel Mitchell? That's correct. Cancel it. Mrs. Mitchell, are you sure about this? These are significant changes. I looked out the window at the darkness. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The next morning, I woke up early. Not from anxiety, but from something that felt almost like relief. I made coffee, sat on my porch, and watched the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. My phone had 17 missed calls, 12 from my son, 5 from Rachel. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I watered my plants, read the newspaper, and baked a peach cobbler for my neighbor Helen, who'd just had hip surgery. Around noon, I heard a car door slam. Then footsteps, quick and heavy, coming up my walkway. The knock on my door was frantic. "Mom! Mom, open the door!" I finished drying the dish in my hand before walking slowly to the entrance. I opened it to find my son standing there, tie loosened, hair disheveled, looking like he hadn't slept. "What did you do?" he demanded. I leaned against the doorframe. "Good afternoon to you too. The bank called Rachel this morning. The boutique payment didn't go through. And Emma's college fund? It's empty. What the hell is going on?" I studied him for a moment. This man who had my late husband's eyes but none of his kindness. This stranger wearing my son's face. "I closed the accounts," I said simply. "You can't just do that." "I can. I did." He pushed past me into the house, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Emma's tuition is due in 3 weeks. Rachel's boutique has bills to pay. We were counting on that money." "I know," I said. "That's been the problem all along, hasn't it? You've been counting on my money while counting me out of your lives." He stopped pacing. "What are you talking about?" "I went to Emma's graduation party yesterday." His face went pale. "Or rather," I continued, "I tried to. Your wife had security turn me away, told them I wasn't family, told them I had dementia." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "Nothing to say?" I asked. "No explanation? No defense of the woman who told strangers that your mother has lost her mind?" He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. She said you wouldn't want to come. That big party's overwhelmed you, that it was better this way, and you believed her." "I didn't know she was going to." "You didn't ask," I interrupted. "You never called to invite me yourself. You never checked if I was coming. You just let her handle it, the way you let her handle everything when it comes to me." He looked up, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the boy he used to be, the one who brought me dandelions from the yard and called them beautiful flowers, the one who fell asleep in my lap during thunderstorms. But that boy was gone. "Mom, please, we need that money." I shook my head slowly. "No. What you need is to learn that I'm not an ATM with a heartbeat. I'm your mother. And for once, you're going to treat me like one. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to leave." He stared at me. "What?" "Leave. Go home. Figure out how to pay your own bills, fund your own daughter's education, save your wife's business without my help. That's what adults do. You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." He stood up, anger and desperation warring on his face. "This is cruel. You're punishing Emma for what Rachel did." "No," I said quietly. "I'm teaching all of you that love is not a transaction, and respect is not optional." He left without another word. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. I sat down in my armchair, the one my husband used to sit in every evening, and I didn't cry. I just breathed, in and out, in and out. The calls kept coming over the next few days. Rachel's were particularly creative, first apologetic, then angry, then threatening. She left a voicemail saying she'd sue me for emotional damages. I saved it for the entertainment value. My son's messages were quieter, confused, "Mom, can we talk? I don't understand what's happening. Please call me back." I didn't respond to any of them. What I did do was go through my finances. Really go through them. Decades of receipts, bank statements, canceled checks. The numbers were staggering. I had given that family over $200,000 over the years. $200,000. And they'd erased me from a guest list. On Friday afternoon, there was another knock at my door. Softer this time, hesitant. I opened it to find Emma standing on my porch. My granddaughter, 18 years old, valedictorian, headed to Duke in the fall. She had her mother's blonde hair but my husband's chin. That stubborn set to her jaw. "Hi, Grandma," she said quietly. My heart clenched, but I kept my voice steady. "Hello, sweetheart. Can I come in?" I stepped aside to let her pass. She sat on the couch where her father had sat 3 days ago, but her posture was different. Shoulders hunched, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the floor. "I didn't know," she finally said. "About the party. About what Mom did. I thought. She told me you weren't feeling well, that you'd sent your regrets, and you believed her." Emma looked up, tears forming in her eyes. "I should have called you myself. I should have checked. I'm so sorry, Grandma." I sat down across from her, studying her face. "Did you know I was paying for your college?" She shook her head. "Dad told me he'd been saving. That's what he said. His investments or something." "There were no investments. There was just me, every month for 18 years. The tears spilled over now. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I believed her. Despite everything, I believed her. "Your mother," I said carefully, "has spent 12 years building a wall between us, and your father let her. But you, Emma, you still had a choice." "I know. And I made the wrong one. I should have seen through it. I should have questioned why you were never at holidays anymore, why we never visited, why—" She broke off, pressing her palms to her eyes. "God, I was so stupid." "Not stupid," I said. "Young, trusting. You believed what you were told because you wanted to believe your parents were good people." She looked at me with such raw pain that I had to look away. "What happens now?" she asked. "The tuition, Duke, everything I worked for." I was quiet for a long moment. I'd spent 3 days thinking about this exact conversation, about what I would say, about what kind of woman I wanted to be. "I'm not going to punish you for your parents' sins," I finally said. "But I'm also not going to fund a future where I don't exist." "What do you mean?" "I mean that if you want my help, you're going to earn it. Not with grades or achievements, with presence, with honesty, with the respect your parents refused to give me." She nodded frantically. "Yes, anything. I'll do anything. You'll visit me. Not when it's convenient. Regularly. You'll call me every week. You'll include me in your life, not because I'm paying for it, but because I'm your grandmother, and I love you, and I deserve to be there. Yes, I promise. I'll do all of that and more." I held up my hand. "I'm not finished. You'll also tell your mother exactly why I'm helping you. You'll make sure she knows that this is between you and me now. Not her. Not your father. Just us." Emma wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. "She's going to be furious. Probably. But that's her problem to deal with, not yours." She was quiet for a moment, then asked, "Why would you still help me after everything?" I reached over and took her hand. "Because unlike your parents, I can separate love from money. I love you, Emma. I always have. But I'm done being invisible. I'm done being erased. So, this is the deal. Take it or leave it." She squeezed my hand tight. "I'll take it. I'll take it, Grandma." We sat there for a while, not speaking, just holding hands. Outside, a cardinal landed on the bird feeder my husband had installed 20 years ago. It pecked at the seeds, red feathers bright against the green leaves. "I have something for you," I said finally. I got up and walked to my bedroom, retrieving a small velvet box from my dresser drawer. When I returned, I placed it in Emma's hands, This was my mother's. She gave it to me on my wedding day. I was going to give it to you at your graduation party." Emma opened the box to reveal a delicate gold locket, worn smooth by generations of fingers. Inside was a tiny photograph of my mother holding me as a baby. "Grandma," she breathed. "There's room for another photo," I said. "I was thinking maybe one of us, if you want." She threw her arms around me and sobbed into my shoulder. I held her tight, this girl who was still young enough to change, to grow, to become something different from what she'd been taught. "I'm so sorry," she kept whispering. "I'm so sorry." "I know, sweetheart, I know." When she finally left, the house felt different. Not empty, full of possibility. That evening, I made myself a nice dinner. Baked salmon, roasted vegetables, a glass of white wine. I ate at the dining room table, instead of in front of the television, using the good china I'd been saving for special occasions that never came. After dinner, I sat on the porch and watched the fireflies emerge, dotting the darkness with their tiny lights. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "You're making a huge mistake. My lawyer will be in touch." I read it, smiled slightly, and blocked her number. The next few weeks brought change in waves. Emma called every Sunday, just as she'd promised. We talked about her classes, her friends, her fears about starting college. She visited twice, once to help me plant a new garden bed, once just to sit on the porch and drink lemonade. Rachel made good on her threat and had an attorney send me a letter. I showed it to my own lawyer, a woman named Christine who'd known my husband, and she laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. "They have no case," she said, "not even close." My son called once, leaving a message that was equal parts apology and accusation. "I don't know what you want from us, Mom. We're struggling here. Is this really the hill you want to die on?" I didn't call him back. Some questions answer themselves. One Saturday morning, I drove to the cemetery where my husband was buried. I hadn't been in months. The guilt of that hit me as I walked the familiar path to his grave. I sat down on the bench beside his headstone and talked to him. Really talked about what had happened, about what I'd done, about who I was becoming. "I should have done this years ago," I told him, but I was so afraid of losing them completely that I let them take everything else first. My dignity, my self-respect, my place in my own family. The wind rustled through the leaves above me. "I think you'd be proud," I whispered. "I think you'd say it was about time." I sat there until the sun was high in the sky, then drove home feeling lighter than I had in years. In July, Emma moved into her dorm at Duke. I helped her unpack, hung curtains in her window, took her to Target for all the things she'd forgotten. Her roommate's mother invited us to dinner, and I sat at that restaurant table feeling seen, feeling present, feeling like somebody's grandmother. Before I left, Emma hugged me in the parking lot. "Thank you," she said, "not just for the money, for showing me that I can be different, that I don't have to be like them." I cupped her face in my hands. "You're going to be whoever you choose to be, sweetheart. Just make sure you're choosing, not drifting." She nodded, eyes bright. I drove home with the windows down and the radio playing old songs from my youth, songs about love and loss and starting over, songs that reminded me that life doesn't end just because one chapter does. Fall came softly to Savannah that year. The heat loosened its grip. The nights grew cooler, and the azaleas my husband planted decades ago burst into unexpected late bloom. On a Thursday afternoon in October, I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw my son sitting in his vehicle, not moving, just staring at my front door. I watched him for a full 5 minutes before he finally got out and walked to the porch. His knock was quiet, almost timid. When I opened the door, he looked different, older, tired in a way that went beyond sleeplessness. "Can we talk?" he asked. "No demands this time. No accusations." I stepped aside and let him in. He sat in his father's chair, and I didn't tell him to move. "Some battles aren't worth fighting." "Rachel left," he said flatly. "Took half of everything and moved to Charleston to be closer to her sister." I waited. The boutique went under. We had to sell the house to cover the debts. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm staying in a studio apartment now, 47 years old, and I'm starting over from nothing. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. Not for what I'd done, but for the pain he was clearly in. He looked up at me. Are you? Really? I'm your mother. I never wanted you to suffer. Then why? He stopped, shook his head. No, that's not fair. I know why. We sat in silence for a while. The clock ticked. A car passed outside. I've been thinking, he finally said, about everything, about how we treated you, about what Rachel said at that party. His voice cracked slightly. I should have stopped it. I should have stood up for you years ago, but I was so caught up in keeping the peace, in keeping Rachel happy, that I forgot. Forgot what? He looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw my son, the real one, the one who used to run to me when he was scared, who trusted me with his secrets, who told me I was the best mom in the world. I forgot that you were the one who actually loved me, he said. Not my money, not what I could provide. Just me. The tears came then. For both of us. I moved to sit beside him on the couch and took his hand the way I used to when he was small. I still love you, I said. I never stopped. But I couldn't keep letting you take pieces of me until there was nothing left. He nodded, squeezing my hand. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. We sat like that for a long time. Not speaking, just being. Mother and son. Broken, but mending. When he left that evening, he hugged me at the door. Really hugged me. The way he used to before he got too old, too proud, too lost. Can I come back? He asked. Not for money? Just to visit? Yes, I said. You can come back. That winter was the coldest Savannah had seen in decades, but my house felt warm. Emma called every week, visited for Thanksgiving, brought her new boyfriend to meet me at Christmas. My son came by on Sundays, sometimes to help with repairs, sometimes just to sit and talk. We didn't discuss Rachel. We didn't rehash the past. We just moved forward, slowly, carefully, building something new on the ruins of what had been. On New Year's Eve, I sat alone on my porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars. The neighborhood was quiet. Everyone was at parties or gatherings, counting down to midnight. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, invisible, expendable, waiting by the phone for people who would never call. And I thought about who I was now. Seen, valued, whole. The clock on my phone struck midnight. Fireworks popped in the distance. Somewhere, someone cheered. I smiled and raised my glass of champagne to the empty chair beside me. Happy New Year, Dorothy, I whispered to myself. You made it. And I had. If this story meant something to you, if you saw your own silence somewhere in mine, I want you to know this. You are not invisible. You are not expendable. Your worth is not measured by what you give, but by who you are. And if anyone ever tries to erase you from your own story, remember this. You hold the pen. You always have. Don't let anyone write you out.